Good morning. How was yesterday for you? Was it the moment you've been working for so long?
Well, yesterday was indeed a key moment, of course, with the official launch of the European Year of Rail, and I'm very happy that it could take off so prominently, with so many member states and ministers agreeing on the action.
I don't really envy your role, because I would say the role of the Commission is member states, rightly so, and citizens, rightly so, say, we want more trains. Then they go to the Commission and say, make plans for this. Then you make really ambitious plans for it. You go back to the member states and they say, oh, but this is really bad for our national carriers and our national interest. Take it down, Commission. And then they blame you for having no results. I don't envy your role.
Well, I think that the Commission is in its role where it should be, to propose and afterwards to enforce, and so to push and to pull. We are there to make sure that we propose to the European member states and to the European Parliament an ambitious package to realize the Green Deal, also in transport, where we have to decarbonize still by 90%. Afterwards, it is up to the member states, of course, to legislate together with the Parliament. And then we are there again as a Commission to enforce, to make sure that it is happening on the ground. And of course, I also heard the Portuguese minister. But I'm sorry, there is, of course, a fourth railway package on market opening, which is fully into force right now, since last month for its last segments, which is internal domestic passenger rail. And we are there to make sure that this is also then translated into reality for citizens and businesses. And we have also a very strong arm in regard as the new MFF, the new budget, with a strong package on the RRF, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, but also the Connecting Europe Facility, where we invest over 70% of the Connecting Europe Facility into rail. So it's not just words, and we're not cuckoo, and we're certainly not lazy on it, because this ambition that we have is shared with the member states, with the Parliament, and we want to realize it.
But on the other hand, when you talked already about the fourth railway package, if you compare what was adopted in the end versus what you proposed, it was gravely watered down, mainly by member states, to protect the national interest and the national carriers.
Well, of course, we are the body which is proposing and afterwards enforcing. And so it is always in Europe a matter of, I would say, small steps, but steady steps. And I think that is what democracy is like in Europe. We are not there to do it perhaps the Chinese way, and putting thousands of kilometers across backyards of citizens and so forth. So we have minute legislation that protects citizens, that ensures that the things are done correctly, and that when we build these infrastructures, or when we ensure those services, that they do serve also the citizen in the long run. And we will take, again, and that's indeed a reply to you, we will take it to the next level in order to make that Green Deal happening.
Okay, and so we are asking the people at home, if they were European Commissioner for Transport for one day, what would be the one thing they would do? Some people say invest, give membership points, I would give bonus points, introduce travel cards, tax on airplanes, simplify, well, more and more things are coming, and Marieke is all collecting them for us. Mr. Ruijters, I would like to go with you through a few steps of where we have the European ambition versus where we are in reality. So let's say I want to start my own railway company, and I want to, well, first I want to start a national train, let's say Rotterdam to Amsterdam, but then I get a no-no, and that according to so we have an open network, and it should be possible for everybody to be a train. But if I want to drive a train from Rotterdam to Amsterdam, I get a no-no because the Dutch national carrier has a monopoly. Isn't that against what was expected from an open EU railway system?
Well, as I just indicated, the fourth railway package has been put into place, and market opening has been ensured now also for domestic rail. And for instance, to just give an example, we saw the announcement yesterday of a new domestic Portuguese rail provider, making sure that long-distance rail can be offered in there. And we have more and more companies across Europe, which are, I think, in competition with the incumbent rail companies. ensuring that there is sufficient competition on rail, which will drive up quality and lower prices and make sure that we get where we want.
But then, on the other hand, as in the Netherlands, where we have a concession, the government even says which trains a company has to buy, how often they should run, which color they should be painted, and which tone the air horn of the train should have. So the only thing you have to take the staff of the old railway company. So basically, the only thing you can choose yourself is, well, the brand of computers you have at your office.
Well, as one can know, there are quite a lot of public service obligations in rail that are run across Europe, even internationally. And also for these public service obligations, we have clearly agreed in the rail packages how they can be and when they can be tendered, and when the member states can keep also, I would say, a certain number of provisions in place that maintain the services in accordance with European legislation. And of course, when PSOs, so these so-called public service obligations, are attended again, there is also protection put in place for staff and for rolling stock, and that these investments and also these, I would say, social sides of our rail market are being protected sufficiently. So I don't think that this should be extrapolated to overprotection. I think it is a carefully crafted European piece of legislation that also protects the social dimension of it.
Well, that's because we have this hybrid system where we don't have a solid state monopoly or state-run trains, nor that we have a completely open access system. Would you say we have the best of both worlds, or do you say we have pasta mixed with sushi? It's
that's nicely put. I think we have very close to the best of two worlds, but I would also clearly say, as I said in a part of my statement, that we still have a long way to go in rail. I mean, there are clearly still challenges. The challenges are both on the side of the services offered, and they are also on the side of infrastructure and the interoperability of it. So we need to make sure that the 4 railway packages that entered into force lately only 1 month ago are fully enforced, and we are doing so.
Okay.
And yes.
Let's take a few steps from it. So I ditched my plan from Rotterdam to Amsterdam. I'm going long distance international night train. Let's say Rotterdam to Madrid. First, so I need a few things. I need a path, I need a train, I need some staff, I need to sell tickets, those kind of things. Let's first start with a railway path. I need to be put in the timetable from Rotterdam to Madrid. The idea is that it's a one-stop shop. Instead of going to all the rail managers in every separate country, I can choose one of the 4 countries I'm in, and they will do it, and they will figure it out with their colleagues. It seems that it turns out much more difficult than this, because they don't have a lot of experience in this, and that's, how often do you call about this with Spain? Maybe Mr. Foppen, if I call ProRail and say, can you arrange for me a path from here to Madrid? Are you capable of doing this European obligation?
We are doing it right now for some operators, especially for the night trains. And to be honest, we have difficulties with it. So we really try to help them and make this international pass, and we are able to do it. But it takes much more time, it takes much more effort, and also, the word again, more bureaucracy, which I would like. So we are growing into it.
And because some of these carriers are complaining, say people are well willing, but they often have a "ooh, that's going to be difficult" attitude instead of a "ooh, that's difficult, let's see how to fix it."
Yeah, I hope we are now at the 50% at ProRail. So we still have the people who are not used to it, but we still have also a lot of people who are excited about these new developments and really want to help these trains. Because people have a heart also for these kind of night trains. People are really happy that they are back. So it's also excitement in ProRail.
Okay. So you're going to help me. You're going to find me a path from here to Madrid. Now we need a train that preferably can go is certified in all the countries I'm going through. The idea is that I go to ERA, the European Railway Authority, and they can give me a license for the whole rail. But then there are different safety. I need a train that is capable of the different safety systems in all countries, plus ERTMS, plus all the different versions of ERTMS in every different countries. For example, I have Bombardier trucks locomotive that's certified for Germany. Then I want to bring it into the Netherlands. Then I need to update the software of the locomotive with ERTMS for the Netherlands so it can go on our tracks. Then I lose my license for Germany. So the idea is I can certify one train for the whole track. In reality, Mr. Ruijters, I don't think I can find one locomotive, and maybe not even carriages, that can go all the way from Rotterdam to Madrid.
Well, you can. I mean, there are very clearly international trains running already. I won't say that it is an easy exercise today in Europe, but there are multi-current locomotives. There are also locomotives that are installed with the different systems, and the operations are clearly possible and ongoing already. What we are trying to do is to break down with our ERA, with our agency, all these operational rules, which is a long and tedious exercise. But we are well determined and well on our way to do so. And so when we had more than 3,000 of them, we are steadily breaking them away in order to facilitate exactly this process that you're referring to. The same is happening also to ERTMS and the approval of by ERA of locomotives, where again we make this step in very concrete terms.
But,
so, of course, you
could say ERTMS was going to save us all because we have one European railway system. But instead of one European railway system, we have 27 national railway system plus 27 nationalized ERTMSs. Well, good luck having I mean, it took so long to get these tracks locomotives working in the Netherlands. I'm not sure I can get my train license and operating in 4 countries for 2030.
Well, you have indeed a long process. ERTMS was starting already in the end of the 80s, and now we have a stable baseline, and we have more and more member states that are completely shifting their entire national network to an ERTMS network. And this change is occurring over the last years and in the current MFF. And I expect that the ERTMS delivery in the next 5 to 10 years will be really determining the future of rail in Europe.
But some operators are complaining that they say, well, first it was the UIC's job to do a lot of registering and administrating and licensing. Now it's all going to the European Railway Authority, which makes sense. That's because that's from the EU itself. But they say instead of making it easier, it's become more difficult. Is the ERA working to its full potential?
I think it is. I mean, it is meant as a one-stop shop, and I've seen discussions in rail being completely tedious between 2 or 3 or 4 member states. On this, you get a unique single window approval system. So yes.
Okay, so hopefully I get my train license. Now I need a driver and a conductor because that's important for a train. Again, if I have an airplane, I get a IATA certified pilot who speaks English. No matter where he comes from, he can fly from any airport in the world to any airport in the world except for North Korea. But a driver, I need to have a driver that speaks all the languages of all the national member states, adheres to all the national labor regulations, and is certified for basically every meter of track it has to go on. Good luck finding someone who can do that when already the labor market is so competitive with technical people. How am I going to find a driver?
If you combine all of the, let's say, national systems that were existing in rail, you might almost think that it is impossible to have such international services running. We have been trying to break that down by the consecutive 4 packages. I strongly believe that there will be more necessary in order to overcome the last challenges that we have. So we are piloting, for instance, a timetabling exercise. We are working on a test on language, a language regime that could be in place. And in fact, rail should be the sector where this is relatively simple because of its automatization through the ERTMS, but also the digitalization that we are trying to put in place. If rail needs to get to the market segments that we are putting forward in our strategy, this in particular, I think Mr. Foppe said as well, this digitalization and automatization can bring huge benefits over the next 10 years. And systems that make these kind of difficulties, like language as well, will be the ones that we can overcome, I think, relatively easily.
Would you advise me to go this way, or would you say, well, do that in 2030? For now, just ask the national railway carrier for a locomotive to bring your carriages to the border and then switch locomotives?
No, I would never recommend that. I mean, I would always try to go for a European system. I mean, we have not put in place all of these developments, the market packages and ERTMS, to then say we go back to 1980 or 1990, where we just bring it back to 27 national segments. I think rail can make this breakthrough, but it will be a tough battle.
Then, next step, I need to sell tickets. So that what you hope is, again, compared to the airlines, I plug my availability and my seats into the worldwide operating database, I put a price on it, and everybody is able to sell tickets on their platform, even change the prices to it, and also include my train in a longer journey from people's houses, then to my train, and then to their end destination. How am I going to do that in Europe?
Yes, in Europe, we have, of course, already platforms developing also for rail. But we are working very hard on one other proposal that I didn't mention, on the ITS proposal in this year, which will also have a multimodal ticketing component. For that, we need very stable data in a data space. And we are going to legislate and propose on that because, of course, rail is lagging behind in that segment. It's not so easy to find these kind of comparisons and so on very easy applications. This is due to ownership. This is due also to, I would say, security in these data domains, and also in trust. And what I see in the rail sector is still insufficient, let's say, availability of such data. But it is also linked, of course, to the setting up of this kind of trusted network and exchange. So this is something we will legislate in this year, next year, and to make sure that this can happen the same way in the rail sector as it's happening in others.
Okay, so, well, let's hope I get it done. I have my train, I get my ticket sold. Now I need to notify the infra manager that my train is actually going to run. And here you would say there's a European directive, the highest level of European legislation that actually describes how this should be done. But then, in the Netherlands, I need to notify 30 days in advance. In Belgium, it's 7 days in advance. And in Germany, I have a problem. I already should have notified the infra manager when requesting a train path. So you made a directive explaining exactly how it should be done, but every country implemented it different. And this makes my life much more difficult. Why aren't you saying to those member states, this is not how the directive was meant. It should be the same in every country?
Well, I think I will nevertheless return this one more time. Railway packages have been put forward. And as you indicated in the beginning yourself, some of it is watered down by the co-legislators. And when we have such a directive in place, as you clearly state, member states have the transposition into national law, which can lead to, I would say, divergences from the initial goal as the Commission proposed. And this analysis is clearly made on our side, and it is also obvious to us that we need to further make steps in order to enhance. But I would also say here very clearly that I rejoice that member states have realized through the European Year of Rail exercise, but also through all the actions that were undertaken by the Commission, that there is a joint endeavor here that we need to follow up on. And it is not just Commission dictating and regulating. It is also, I think, a very clear ownership by the member states based upon the packages that the Commission has put forward. So we cannot have the European Commission dealing, I would say, with minute details of the divergences in transposition between 7, 15 days, 1 month, or a train path allocation up front. Then it would remain us to continue to legislate step by step, which is what we are doing. But we also call upon, I would say, the sector to take its responsibility there.
So you are preparing all this legislation and all these budget lines. Do you think that you will have the same exercise with the fourth railway package, that they will gravely water it down and you have to fight this uphill battle? Or has something really changed? Is 2021 a turning point? And will the discussion with the member states and the European Parliament be different than in the past?
yes, it will be different because we have a Green Deal, which my colleague Diederik Samson will talk about, because we have put in place an MFF budget, which is more ambitious than ever before, because the fourth railway package has just come into force and we are going to enforce that one, because we will have proposals this year on the TEN-T, on ITS and ticketing, and on the rail freight corridors, which will ensure that where we see the most important gaps, we will address those. And we are not going to go into everything because the Commission is not there to address each and every single detail that rail is confronted with, but we shall concentrate on the essentials and deliver upon them. And for me also here in my function, it still is also an absolute need to focus on the cross-border missing links, the gaps that we have in the network, because we have to digitalize, we have to make it smart, but we also have to close the physical gaps that we still have. And when we can achieve all of those in the coming decade with this current Commission, I think we really can deliver. And I'm sure that Diederik will reinforce my message by a tenfold, because the ambition of, I think, his commissioner goes way beyond what I can put forward here.
Well, it's wonderful to hear all this ambition. Also, I hope I can share all your optimism about that we can turn into reality. Your enthusiasm at least will not be the hindrance for this. Thank you so much for your passionate plea for a more European railway. Thank you so much, Mr. Ruijters.